In this video, I'm going to share with you 6 limiting beliefs that are holding you back. So before we actually get into the 6 limiting beliefs, I just want to share with you what a limiting belief is. So a limiting belief is something that we believe to be true. Now, a limiting belief, by its very nature of the word, limits you in some way. That it normally limits you to go after your goals, reaching your full potential, or just it limits your perspective overall as a person about yourself, other people, or just the world in general. Now, these limiting beliefs seriously do hold you back from reaching your full potential. So whenever you feel like you want to go after a goal, or whenever you feel like you want to achieve something, and you get that little voice in your head saying you can't do it, or what if it doesn't work out? If you get those kind of thoughts or ideas or false beliefs in your head, then you know they're limiting beliefs because they're limiting you in some way or another. So with that said, let's take a look at the first limiting belief that's holding you back. So the first limiting belief is, I'm not good enough. Now this is a big one because if you don't feel like you're good enough, then you most likely won't be good enough because you're not going to put in the effort. You're not going to be as enthusiastic as you would be if you felt like you was good enough, or if you had the belief in yourself that you could possibly be good enough. Now, my question to you is, why do you think that you're not good enough? Why do you think that you're not good enough? Is it because of your own opinion that you feel like you're not good enough? Is it because somebody else told you that you're not good enough? Or is it because you're comparing yourself to other people and that's why you don't feel like you're good enough? Or is it that you've had a previous experience and you've basically not achieved the results that you wanted to achieve? So therefore, it's made you feel like you're not good enough. So when that thought comes up that you're not good enough, you need to remind yourself that you are good enough. Or if you're genuinely not good enough in terms of you haven't got the skills that you need to be good enough to do a particular thing, then simply acquire the skills that you need, put in the time, effort, and action required, so that way you can become good at the skill or become good at the thing that you're trying to learn, and that way you will be good enough. And a lot of our feelings as to why we don't feel good enough is because of previous experiences, because of previous failures. If we've failed in the past, then we're not going to feel good enough. So if you have failed at something in the past, simply retry it. For example, if you went on a diet and you failed at the diet because you didn't really commit to it, that's another thing, committing to something, which I'll make a separate video on. But let's say you failed on the diet and because of that experience, you don't feel good enough to now redo it. So when that happens, you can retry the diet, but this time truly commit to it, truly commit to doing the diet, truly commit to following the diet, be disciplined with the diet. And that way you can change that belief system, that limiting belief system that you're not good enough into I am good enough. The second limiting belief is, it's too late for me to change. Now, when you get the feeling or the idea or the limiting belief that it's too late for me to change, you need to ask yourself, according to who? Who said that it's too late for me to change? Was it you? Was it somebody else? Was it something that you heard? So according to who? Because when it really comes down to it, it's most probably yourself or somebody else that you heard saying to you that it's too late to do such a thing. It's too late to start a thing. So when that idea comes up in your head, you need to remind yourself that this is 100% a limiting belief because it's not too late for you to change. And if you are feeling like it's too late to change because of an age barrier, for example, you really love football or basketball and you're in your mid-40s or 50s and you're choosing or you wanna become a pro in that sport at the highest level, a world-class athlete. Now, I can understand where there may be a restriction there, but when you're talking about just general things like achieving goals or going after certain things, why is it too late for you to change? It's not. Normally, it's because of a comfort zone that we have. We've been so comfortable doing the same thing over and over again that we just have built up the limiting belief that it's too late for me to change, when in fact, it's not. It's more to do with a comfort zone and being really comfortable around and not wanting to change. So there is going to be some resistance. It is going to feel a little bit weird when it comes to changing, but these are just limiting beliefs and it's just old patterns of thinking. Actually, it can be quite negative thinking as well, but remind yourself that these are just old ways of thinking. You need to develop new patterns by proving to yourself that it's not too late to do something. It's not too late to start. Thinking it's too late to do something, it's just going to keep you stuck and paralyzed because you're not going to do anything because you feel like it's too late to do anything. The third limiting belief is, I don't have enough time. Now, again, I'm going to ask you, why? Why don't you have enough time? So if you feel like you don't have enough time, there's clearly something going on in your life that's taking up too much time. And you're using your time in a way that you would rather not be using your time. So when you have the limiting belief that there's not enough time in a day, I wouldn't see why a person would be surprised if there's not enough time in a day, because that's what you genuinely believe and that's genuinely what you're going to do. For example, you might have a lot of spare time. So you'll be filling that time up with things that are not that important because you genuinely believe that you don't have enough time in a day. So essentially, it's a part of self-sabotage where you're going to make sure that you fill your day up with non-important things. So now you feel like you don't have enough time, but it's all a matter of priorities. So whenever you catch yourself or hear yourself saying that you don't have enough time, really think about what you're using and spending your time on, because you're most probably spending a lot of your time on things that don't really have that much importance. They're not really adding or helping you towards your goals or achieving things in your life. And we do waste a lot of time. We might not think or like to admit that we're wasting time, but we do waste a lot of time. For example, you sit down and you decide that you're going to work on a project. And then you decide to watch a bit of Netflix, you decide to browse on your phone, and you decide that you want to research a thing that you've been waiting for months and it's coming out in the next week. All that takes time. Now, it might not seem like you're wasting time, but mixing up downtime to wasting time over your goals is where the issue can also lie. So having downtime is completely fine. That's not wasting time. You're having downtime, you're relaxing, you're rejuvenating yourself. But when you've got goals, when you feel like you're not doing as much as you could be, then there's most probably things in your life that you're doing that are taking up a lot of your time, essentially wasting time. So like I said, a lot of these things are like, binge watching TV, scrolling mindlessly on your phone, such as apps like TikTok, Instagram, etc. I've been there. I know what it feels like when you're just constantly scrolling. And in today's modern world, technology is designed in such a way that it's quite addictive. There's like little triggers that get us to do certain things, and they give us little rewards for clicking or liking or swiping. So with all those distractions, these things can easily burn up and eat up all of our time. So we feel like we don't have enough time. So it's just a matter of getting your priorities straight, getting your priorities right, and then using that time that essentially would be wasting on things that are not important to start using that time now on something that is important, and it's now giving you the time that you need. So when you feel like you don't have enough time, remind yourself this is a limiting belief, because you do have enough time, but it's the very thought and the limiting belief of thinking I don't have enough time that's keeping you in a state of not having enough time. Now, before we go on to point 4, my name is Luke. And this channel is all about personal development. And I enjoy sharing the things that I've learned and continuously learn. So if you're enjoying this video, make sure you like it and subscribe. And if you're interested in the topic of limiting beliefs, I also shot a video which is called How to Overcome Limiting Beliefs in 5 Steps. So if that's something that you'd be interested in watching, then I've left the link in the video description down below, and there should also be a link to it on this video as well. The 4th limiting belief that's holding you back is, I'm waiting for the right time. How many times have you heard yourself, other people say, I'm waiting for the right time? You ask them, do you want to do something? Or what goals do you have? Or when are you going to do it? I'm just waiting for the right time. Now's not the right time. When is it ever going to be the right time? I've used this line so many times in my life. It's not the right time. I'm waiting to first do this. I'm waiting to first get better at that. I'm waiting to learn more about this. In reality, it just boils down to fear. It's, just a bit of fear. What if it doesn't work out? What if I'm wrong? What will people think of me, etc.? It just comes down to fear of the unknown. When we don't know what lies ahead, we don't know what lies ahead. So it's scary. So to protect ourselves from feeling that fear of the unknown of failure, we just put ourselves in a situation where I'm just waiting for the right time. It's not the right time. I'm just waiting for the right moment. Now, if you're really, really honest with yourself, you know how many times you've used this in the past. And it is a limiting belief, because if you're waiting for the right time, you're going to be waiting forever. Now, I know there's, circumstances where people have had miracles happen in their life, but for 99.9% of people, it's not going to happen that way. It needs to happen in a way where you make it the right time, where you actually make the thing that you want to do the right time. Because if you're just waiting for the right time, I genuinely believe you're going to be waiting forever. Make the right time, make the circumstance, put in the effort, and see what comes of it. When we're scared of doing something, we like to put it off. We like to hold back on it, and we like to use, I'm going to say excuses, because that's what they are. We like to use excuses as to the reason why we've not done it yet. We could have, I could have, or I should have, or I can easily do that. Then why haven't you done it? If you're waiting for the right time, you're going to be waiting forever. Just do something, put in the work, and things will start moving. The fifth limiting belief is, it's not my responsibility. Now, we all know that it's a lot easier to not take responsibility and simply point the finger at someone else. Say it's their fault. Now, when you do things like that, it stops making you accountable. It stops you from putting yourself in a position where you can take control. That's the easy route out. That's not how you fix things, because if you're just blaming other people or pointing the finger at someone else, you're not going to learn how to fix it. So when you hear yourself saying things like it's not my responsibility, then whose responsibility is it? And if you're doing something or working on a project where somebody else has made an error or somebody else has made a mistake, that's not impacted your work because you're collaborating with someone. If that sort of situation happens and you basically say it's not my responsibility, then you lose, because it is your responsibility, because you're involved. It affects your life. When there's something happening and it can directly affect your life, it is your responsibility, and it has to be your responsibility, because if you leave it in the hands of somebody else and something happens, then that's going to fall on you. So you need to make sure that everything is your responsibility. Not making it your responsibility just simply puts you back in that comfort zone. It puts you back in that place where it's safe, secure. But that's a double-edged sword, because there's consequences to playing it safe. As easy as it is to play the blame game, as easy as it is to point the finger at someone else because it takes all pressure off of you, there's going to come a point where you're going to have to take responsibility. And the sooner, the better. The sixth limiting belief holding you back is perfectionism. Now, perfectionism is a limiting belief, because if you feel like you need to get everything perfect before you do anything with it or release something, then how are you ever going to move forward? The way you move forward and the way you progress is by trying it, failing, making adjustments, making the corrections necessary, and then redoing it. And that's a continuous thing that we have to do. And in order to get things wrong, you have to be doing something. If you're not doing anything, you're not going to be able to get anything wrong. And if you have the belief that you have to be a perfectionist to do anything, then you're not going to move forward very far. Because if you need to get everything perfect before you release it or show it to people, then how are you ever going to be able to get it out there? Because if it has to be perfect, which is pretty much impossible to get something perfect, how are you going to be able to get feedback? How are you going to know where you went wrong? How are you going to know where you went right? So the solution is, you need to tell yourself that in order to get something really good, you have to get a few things wrong and you have to try things. I'll give you an example. Imagine you had a YouTube channel. So I'm going to be using myself in this example. If I would have waited to get everything perfect, video, lighting, audio, scripting, etc. If I'd have waited to get all of that perfect before ever doing it, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be in front of this camera and I wouldn't be producing these videos, because if I was waiting for everything to be perfect, what is perfect? Like what is perfect? How do you get something perfect? And perfect is also subjective to what you think perfect is. And if you're waiting for something to be perfect, there's always going to be new things that you find wrong with something, therefore making it not perfect. I'll give you another example. When I created my first video, I was super overcritical and over analyzing the things I was saying, my editing methods, the lighting, the sound, etc. And it come to the point where I was analyzing it and trying to perfect it so much that I never released it. I never done it until I realized that the only way to get good at something, to get really good at something, is to try it, to get it wrong, to get feedback and to test it and then make improvements. And one of the deeper reasons as to why we suffer with perfectionism is because we have a fear of being judged. We have a fear of being criticized. What will people think of us? What if it's not good? What if they don't like it? So a lot of things do come down to fear. And as I produce these videos more and more, you'll see that fear of the unknown comes up so much because it's such a massive part of doing things in life. So each time the limiting belief comes up that you have to get it perfect, you need to tell yourself that this is going to hold you back. It's going to stop you from progressing, because change is made over time and change is incremental. It doesn't just happen all in one go. The way you get better at something is by putting in the work, making the adjustments, and then redoing something. So there you have it. If you enjoyed this video and you want to know why we resist change in life, then click the link below in the video description. Take care.